Part 70. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 691. Chapter 691 Is he worthy? Mrs. Ye carefully considered yes only condition. If she helped Ye I find information, Ye I would definitely use this to take revenge on Yehantian. Mrs. Ye cannot abandon the honor and privileged life that the Ye group has brought to her. She wants to be aloof. She wants her son to be admired by others as a superior person. If something happens to Yehantian, the person who will inherit the Ye group will have no other choice but Yezikin. In this way, all worries are gone. Mrs. Ye thought about the pros and cons and smiled broadly. God is really helping my son. No one in business is completely above board, and Yehantian got into trouble a lot in his pursuit of profit. Although Yehantian avoids Mrs. Ye, he is still very relieved. Because he always knew that Mrs. Ye also wanted the Ye group to develop indefinitely, because in the end, her son Yezikin would inherit the wealth. So Yehantian believed that Madame Ye was in the same boat as him and would not do anything harmful to the Ye group. Mrs. Ye has some understanding of the dirty things Yehantian did, but her knowledge is not perfect. Where will Dong Xz be in the cold night? Mrs. Ye screened away everyone in the villa and entered Yehantian's study with the key. There are two study rooms in Yejia's villa, one is for Yezikin and the other is for Yehantian. Yechinexai's study is closed to people, and the same is true for Yehantian's. Yezikin didn't allow casual access just because he didn't want others to touch his things, but Yehantian hid an ugly secret inside. What happened back then can be said to be simple or complicated. It's just that Yehantian was obsessed with profit and ignored the righteousness of his friends, and Ye Wei's father trusted his brother too much, which led to his accidental death. The collection bills for that year were all hidden by Yehantian, so Madame Ye could only spend time looking for them. Ye only didn't rush her within 3 days, but after 3 days, she called Mrs. Ye to give her some advice occasionally. I also hope that noble people will not forget things too much. The transaction between the two is going on, and Mosi finally found some clues. Although he couldn't remember how he and Mrs. Ye got involved, since the accident had happened, he would not escape. What's more, if the old lady of the Mo family knew about the addition of a son, she would probably be so happy that she would laugh even in her sleep. Sir, what are your plans now? Reveal your identity or continue to hide it. Since he is of the bloodline of our Mo family, we must let him recognize his ancestors and return to our clan. But Yezikin is an independent person who rarely cares about other things. Although the Mo family is worse than the Ye group, Yezikin is only one of the successors when he returns to the Mo family. But if he stays in Yehantian by his side, he can inherit the entire Ye family. Although the entire Ye clan is not as powerful as a part of the Mo family, Yezikin can do whatever he wants in the Ye clan. I don't know what Yezikin will choose. Humph, if he values power, he is not worthy of being my son, Mosi. Uncle Mosi, don't speak too early. Brother Chen has his own reasons for choosing, and you can't criticize him at will. While Pei Yuchen and Mosi were talking, Ye Wei suddenly walked in from outside the door. Ye Wei said, I haven't thought about telling him about my identity so soon. Suddenly, the atmosphere became tense and subtle. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 692. Chapter 692 Madame Ye's real name. Chiao, do you really want to use Yezikin's identity as a bargaining chip to take revenge on Yehantian? Hearing this, Ye Wei raised his eyes and stared at Mosi without squinting. After Mosi knew that Yezikin was his son, it was inevitable that he would be biased. But Mosi really doesn't understand Ye Wei. She wanted to take advantage of this truth, but it was definitely not based on hurting Yezikin. Uncle Mosi, no matter who has lived for more than 20 years, it would be hard to believe the news that he is not his parents' biological child at first glance, right? Even though Brother Chen is extremely smart, he is still an ordinary person with feelings. Even if he is to uncover the truth, you also need to choose the right time. The secret must be told by a specific person. Mosi nodded, agreeing with Ye Wei's plan. But Mosi also had his own action strategy. He said, I plan to meet with Ye Yafei. When he originally wanted to call MRS Ye, he thought of his relationship with MRS Ye, so he suddenly changed his name and said MRS Ye's full name, Ye Yafei. Ever since she took the surname Ye after marrying Ye Hantian, few people call her by her real name. If Mosi hadn't gone out of his way to look up information about Madame Ye, he wouldn't have known that Madame Ye's full name actually had the same surname as Ye. Her name is Ye Yafei, a name that is both artistic and elegant. Indeed, it's a bit interesting. Ye Wei nodded, Uncle Mosi has his own reasons for doing things. Just do what you want. Ever since he found out that Mosi was Yezikin's biological father, Ye's only address to him became the honorific you. It was not to please anyone, but the appearance of Mosi made her very happy. Grandpa has been a close friend of Mosi for many years. If he knew that Yezikin was Moc's son, he would definitely not stop her from getting together with Yezikin in the future. With Ye's only expectation for the future, Madame Ye finally contacted her and said that she would give her a piece of information. The night when he received the news, he was overjoyed. The two made an appointment to meet at the same place as the previous 2 times. Ye Wei was a little excited. Since MRS Ye has made a promise, the information she wants to give to her must be of great use. When she thinks that she can get those things immediately and combine them with the personal and material evidence collected before, she can bring down Ye Hantian. However, at the most critical moments, unexpected situations often occur. MRS Ye and Ye Wei were talking on the phone to agree on a location, and the old housekeeper happened to overhear them. The old housekeeper secretly passed the news to Yezikin. I think that when MRS Ye bullied Ye Wei, the old housekeeper chose to turn a blind eye, but now he has become more aware of the Ye family's situation, and of course he is more loyal to Yezikin. Yezikin still doesn't know his identity. When he learned that Ye Wei was going to meet with Madame Ye, his first reaction was that Madame Ye couldn't help but want to take action from Ye Yi. Of course he was worried. According to the address given by the housekeeper, he arranged for someone there in advance. When Madame Ye and Ye Yi appeared, their every move was under Yezikin's control. Yezikin didn't want to spy on anyone, he was just caught between 2 people who were most important to him. He couldn't attack anyone and could only choose to protect them. MRS Ye met Ye Yi and handed her things, the things you want are here. Thank you so much. There's no need to express a false thank you, you'd better keep your mouth shut and don't reveal Chen's true identity. I don't know, what is my true identity? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 693. Chapter 693 Confrontation between mother and son. I don't know, what is my true identity? Just when Madame Ye told Ye Wei to conclude the deal with her, Yezikin suddenly appeared. Suddenly Yezikin's voice came, making Madame Ye and Ye Yi both stunned at the same time. After a closer look, their eyes fell on Yezikin at the same time, but they both seemed to be choked and couldn't say a word. But Yezikin did not avoid forbearance this time, but directly approached the 2 of them. Why don't you go on? Yezikin raised his hands, as if watching a play leisurely. But the depth between his brows could not be ignored, and the smile did not reach his eyes, which made Ye Wei feel guilty and panicked. She shouted and tried to approach Yezikin proactively, Brother, what are you doing? When she was halfway through her words, she was forcibly interrupted by Yezikin. You want to ask me why I am here? Yes. Ye Wei couldn't guess Yezikin's thoughts for a moment, so he couldn't help but feel uneasy. Yezikin's face was smiling, but it was unreal. If I said that I happened to pass through this place, I'm afraid you wouldn't believe it. I don't know what his intentions were when he made this joke, but Madame Ye and Ye Wei didn't know for sure. Madame Ye was not willing to lose to Ye Wei. She also took 2 steps to walk to Yezikin, caring about him as if nothing had happened. Chenur, how have you handled the work recently? Have you encountered any problems? If you encounter something difficult to solve, be sure to tell your father and let him guide you. There are no problems, only doubts. Father can't answer them, but maybe you can, mother. It's not like you kid doesn't know I only occasionally inquire about the group's affairs, but I don't know much about the real situation. How can I clear up your doubts? Yezikin heard these words very clearly. Mrsye was unwilling to answer his doubts and tell him the real thing. Yezikin nodded in greeting. Suddenly turned around and came face to face with Ye Wei. Looking at each other, he saw Ye Yu's small movement of pursed lips. Looking down slightly, he saw Ye Wei's hands that were twisted together because of nervousness. According to his understanding of Ye Wei, the many actions and behaviors meant that Ye Wei was hiding things, so he was nervous. He wanted to hear her answer again. How about you? Ye Wei tightened her mouth, biting her lower lip with her teeth, and found it difficult to speak. Do you have anything to tell me? Brother, I. Yezikin just stared at her and asked a few words, and she felt like she couldn't bear it. Because I don't want to lie to him. She can fool others but cannot pretend in front of Yezikin. Seeing Ye Wei being forced by Yezikin, Mrsye never dared to let her tell the truth. Madame Ye turned around without leaving a trace in front of Ye Wei, took her hand and said kindly, Chiao, since I just said that I will never interfere in the affairs of the two of you because of the grudges between Chiao Ye's family, I'll do it. There's nothing I can't say. Ye Wei instantly understood what Madame Ye meant. Mrsye also specifically stated, although Chenur is the heir to the Ye family, he likes you. As a mother, I still hope that my son can be happy. Mrsye looked at Ye Wei, and Yezikin's eyes also fell on her. Doubling the pressure. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 694. Chapter 694. I won't force you. If you agree to Madame Ye's words, it will be equivalent to deceiving Yezikin. Chiao, express your position quickly. Madame Ye took the opportunity to push Ye Wei and asked her to cooperate. The only thing about Ye is that she refuses to say anything. With this look, it goes without saying that there is something wrong. Chenur, what mom said is true. You should be happy. What are you doing with such an expression? It's scary. Mom, I'm glad you agree with us being together, but I hope it's sincere. Hearing these words, Mrsye felt a little embarrassed. She was obviously lying, so how could she be sincere? What I tell you is the truth. If you don't believe me, you should believe her. Ask her yourself if I approve of you being together regardless of your status. Mrsye kept her words and signaled to Ye Wei again. Ye Wei nodded. Yes, Madame Ye's words were true. She had indeed verbally agreed not to interfere with her and Yezikin. Yezikin chuckled, walked around Madame Ye and pulled her away. Seeing that the situation was not good, Madame Ye quickly called her and Yezikin, but Yezikin held Ye Wei by her side and refused to let Madame Ye get close to her anymore. Thank you, mother, for understanding. Let's go first. Yezikin suddenly changed his mind about Madame Ye and took Ye Wei away at the same time. Because he knew that Madame Ye kept lying, and he was no longer willing to listen to lies. Hey! Madame Ye wanted to call him out irritably, but in the end she didn't speak. Now we can only hope that Ye will never tell the truth. Yezikin didn't listen to Madame Ye because she lied, and the only reason he took Ye away at this moment was because she couldn't speak out. Originally, Ye Weiwei was worried that Yezikin would question her, but she didn't expect that Yezikin would become silent after coming out. Ye Weiwei was confused as to why he suddenly appeared in this place, but he didn't know where to start. "Brother, are you angry?" Ye Weiwei tried to grab Yezikin's sleeve. "I was also holding a full breath in my heart. I didn't hide it from you on purpose. Is there a reason why you can't say it?" He said softly and lowered his head. But just because Yezikin didn't get angry didn't mean he wasn't angry. When he was about to explode, he said, "Because of that reason, you used it to make a deal with my mother, so you can't say that, right?" Ye Weiwei, who was lowering his head, heard Yezikin's words and his pupils dilated. She swore, "Brother, I never did anything to hurt you." But Yezikin obviously did not need such a guarantee. He told Ye Weiwei more directly, "It's not just because you think there is no harm to me, you can hide it arbitrarily. So, give you another chance and consider whether you want to tell me the truth." "I can't say," Ye Weiwei shook his head without hesitation. Her behavior is irritating. But it is impossible for someone as dull as Yezikin to get angry at her face to face. So when Yezikin refused, Yezikin let go. "You reject it because of the information in your hand. It seems that this thing is very important to you." His attention fell on the information in Ye Weiwei's hand, and Ye Weiwei subconsciously retracted his hand. "But I heard Yezikin smile lightly, I won't force you." Tweet, cute baby 1v1, cold husband, take the fight quickly. "Hey, man, I'm attracted to you." The charming beauty made a high-profile confession, and a cute little baby with blue eyes followed behind to cheer her up, "Put down daddy. Mummy is mighty." Later, facing Ye Huanchang, the beauty rubbed her sore waist and hid in the corner of the bed begging for mercy. "Hero, brother, spare my life." Boss said lightly, "You slept with me and you should be responsible." She widened her eyes and argued, "I never said that." He narrowed his eyes slightly, raised his lips and smiled, and pulled out the composition written by his son in kindergarten. "My name is Mu Menbao, I am 4 years old this year, and my name is Fengju. Mommy said she slept with daddy, so she had me." End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 695. Chapter 695 No blood relationship, my surname is also Ye. This sentence has more weight than getting angry. Ye Weiwei was so flustered that she couldn't guess what he was thinking. "This information will not harm you." She wanted to say, "because Ye Hantian is not your father." She really wanted to tell Yezikin the truth at this moment. Now that Yezikin has heard her conversation with Madame Ye, even if she conceals it, I believe that Yezikin will continue to trace her identity given her temperament. Verifying the identity relationship is just a matter of identifying DNA. Whether he can find his biological father is not important. What is important is that he will find out that he is not Ye Hantian's son. If he were to find out by himself, it wouldn't be considered a slip of her tongue to Madame Ye. "Brother, I don't want to lie to you. As for what Madame Ye and I just said about your identity are true. If you have any doubts, just go and find out the truth." The only thing in the night was to remind him deliberately. Yezikin remained silent from that moment on, and only said when he sent her home, "I was worried that you would be embarrassed, but now I think I was overly worried." One corner of his mouth was raised, but there was no smile in his eyes. That was the only most profound image left to Yezikin when he left. Ye Weiwei stayed at home and did not go out again. She counted the time to prepare dinner, but did not wait for Yezikin. Sitting on the sofa irritably, Pei Yuchen had already obtained favorable information from Mrs. Ye when he called to greet her. Ye Weiwei looked up and saw something on the coffee table, which had not been opened yet. "The things are here with me. You can also bring the things from before." "When do you plan to start?" Miss. Wait a little longer, I will tell you when the time is right in a few days. At the end of the day, I still have selfish motives. Before submitting evidence that Yehantian committed a crime, she wanted Yezikin to know her identity. No matter what you do, you'd better be mentally prepared. She delayed for another 5 days, using school time as an excuse. 5 days later, she told Pei-Yuchen to take Uncle Anan with him to protect him. For 5 days, she asked Yezikin whether he had found out the truth, but Yezikin did not reply to her. Ye Wei felt uneasy. Firstly, because the hatred of the Chiao family is about to be avenged, and secondly, because the best solution to Yezikin's matter has not yet been found. Hey Chiao, what are you thinking about? You seem to be in a trance. Xiaoziun suddenly jumped out from the side and slapped her on the shoulder. Yezi ducked back reflexively. Ah, you're going to scare me to death. Xiaoziun hummed with a smile, I didn't want to scare you, I just called you. You were looking into the distance without any distractions, and you didn't know what you were thinking. Ye Wei could only tell her, it's some things at home. Come on, your big families just have a lot of trivial matters. I, a commoner, don't understand, so I won't get involved. Stop joking about this. I'm not kidding. Xiaoziun waved his hand and suddenly pointed to the table on the right. Hey, look, your phone lights up. Someone is calling you. Until she received a call from Yezikin. She was looking forward to it when she answered the phone, but when she heard the key points Yezikin was going to say, she was stunned on the spot. Little Belle, even if we are not related by blood, the Ye group still has something that I need to protect. Tweet, green plum in hand, bamboo horse without worries. Liu met Mu-Chi when she was 3 years old. She knew how to strike first at a young age. Fortunately, Mr. Zuma was gentle and considerate, and Xiao Qingmei successfully embarked on the road of hooking up with him. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 696. Chapter 696, Court Battle, Solving the Mystery of the Past, 1. Yezikin knows his life experience. And he also clearly told her to protect the Yes group. They still cannot escape the fate of tit for tat. I thought most people would choose to escape when faced with someone like Yehantian, but Yezikin wanted to stay. Thinking about it, although Yehantian did a lot of bad things and sorry to many people, he did not feel sorry for Yezikin. Okay, I get it. After listening to Yezikin's words quietly, she completely accepted them. The two hung up the phone. 2 days later, Ye Wei returned to S City, and the first person he looked for was Pei-Yuchen. Everything is ready, hand over what we have in hand, we must complete our mission this time. Their mission is to take revenge on Yehantian. Soon, Yehantian received a leaflet from the court. This leaflet caught Yehantian off guard. He quickly contacted those high-ranking officials and wanted to use money to smooth things over. Unexpectedly, the Chiao family had already prepared countermeasures in advance, causing Yehantian's plan to fail. In court, Ye Wei presented evidence one after another. No matter how Yehantian tried to excuse himself, they could come up with corresponding evidence to refute Yehantian's lies. It's just that the money laundering business back then was so long ago that the transfer records of the profitable illegal assets have long been lost. The lawyer Yehantian hired is also quite powerful. He can find every opportunity and will find any loopholes. He is absolutely unambiguous. Yehantian is waiting for a chance to breathe, as if he is a fierce tiger. If you give him a little concession, he will rush forward and tear the enemy into pieces. After many years, many things need to be verified. You have no evidence in your hands. We also doubt that you are deliberately framed. Those things can only be produced by those who understand the original truth, but Ye was only a 7-year-old child at that time, and now that we trace the past events, we can only find out the surface. Although Yewi's move of taking him to court caught Yehantian off guard, Yehantian was very confident that what a yellow-haired girl did was completely useless. Yewi showed a shocked expression. This subtle movement was caught by Yehantian, who made Yehantian feel a little more at ease. However, never underestimate those who come prepared. Who says we don't have evidence? Yes, only words came as another important document was presented. This information was a good thing I got from Madame Ye that day. They have been waiting for so long because they have imagined difficulties at all levels to prevent Yehantian from taking advantage of them. The value of this information is definitely not low. When the evidence was presented, Yehantian's face turned dark. Money laundering is illegal, and he even committed a murder. If you are an ordinary person, you can no longer refute it. But Yehantian refused to admit defeat, and even at his deathbed he wanted to raise questions. I suspect that these things were deliberately forged by someone. Your Honor, I request you to intervene in the investigation, and don't just listen to the villain's slander. Snapped. The judge slapped the hammer hard. Pei Yuchen and Yewi looked at each other, but Yewi did not show any uneasiness. From the moment she entered the court, she was confident and deliberately overwhelmed Yehantian. After so many years, it seems that the search has been fruitless, but in fact, every piece of evidence has fallen into their control. Yehantian made huge profits and took away my father's name. Now I'm suing him. Yehantian deliberately harmed others, causing my mother's humiliation and tragic death. Hua Qinhui's death was originally recorded in the police files. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 697. Chapter 697, Court Battle, Solving the Mystery of the Past, 2. These words are not groundless, nor can they be falsely accused. We have witnesses. Certificate of Succession, Jinan. Seeing Yaowei's calmness and confidence in his clothes, Yehantian's expression could hardly remain tense. Yehantian was shocked by Yehantian's only performance. When did the little girl who in his eyes only relied on Yezikin's help become like this? Independent, confident, and exceptionally strong. Not only that, her plan for revenge seemed to be under his control, but she collected so much under his nose. Who betrayed me? When this doubt arose, the first person that came to Yehantian's mind was his biological son Yezikin. Only Yezikin has a close relationship with Yaoyi, it must be him. With continuous pressure on physical witnesses and evidence, Yehantian can no longer shake off the guilt. Yehantian was imprisoned, and Yes Group encountered the biggest crisis since its establishment. As the sole heir of the Ye family, Yezikin naturally ascended to the throne. Yehantian, who was detained in prison, suddenly realized that the first thing he said when he saw Yezikin was to curse, "You traitor." When something happens to the chairman of Yes Group, the person who benefits most is not the Chiao family who defeated him, but Yezikin, the legitimate heir. That money laundering transaction information is criminal evidence. Then Jinan, that is, Anan, testified that he had found someone to insult Hua Qinhui, and a human life was involved. In addition, the police station's records were irrefutable. It was simply a double crime. You handed the thing in Xiao Lian's hand to her, right? Those so-called evidences are not a problem to me at all, except for the trump card in her hand, that information. Yehantian is in jail now, and there is no need to follow her. He is tactful. However, Yezikin will not admit anything he has not done. He dared to look Yehantian in the eyes and said calmly, "No. Without your help, Xiao Li would not have been able to obtain that information." Yehantian ignored his denial and had already determined in his heart that Xiao Li's revenge was due to Yezikin's help. Now everything in the Ye group will become yours. What's in the bag? You are my son, Yahantian, everything I gain now will be yours in the future. Why do you need to strive for temporary quickness? Yezikin's face was calm and he said in a calm tone, Yezikin, don't bother to lie. Yahantian sneered, still showing his usual arrogant demeanor, in that case, you should find someone to help me get out of this prison as soon as possible. I, Yahantian, have always had a good reputation in the industry, and I must not be affected by this. He was used to ordering people to do things, but he forgot that he was now a prisoner. Yahantian rejected his request. Father, I guarantee that the group you are interested in will make it prosperous. As for leaving the prison, I'm afraid it won't work. Yahantian shook his head. There is nothing that money can't solve. My father is burdened with 2 lives and still has no intention of repenting. I said, the death of Chiao Li's parents was their own fault, and it has nothing to do with me. My hands. Yahantian raised his hands, his eyes narrowed and became sharp. My hands are clean. Everything they said, it's a slander. They deserve to die. It has nothing to do with me. Father, if you dare to do something, you have to pay the price. Yezikin cut off communication with Yezikin by leaving this sentence. Yahantian, who was originally aloof and calm, lost his power and seemed to have aged 10 years suddenly. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 698. Chapter 698, In Crisis. Yahantian was sued in court. The money laundering incident many years ago was exposed and a life was lost. As soon as the news spread, Yes Group's shares fell sharply. Yezikin took full control of the Ye Group, studied countermeasures day and night, and decided to promote a new plan. Ever since Mrsya knew that Yahantian was in jail and that her son was in charge of the Ye Group, her whole face was filled with glory. It's just that the Ye Group is in crisis, which makes Madame Ye very worried. Mrsya asked the chef at home to carefully prepare a nutritious meal schedule, and then prepared each meal for Yezikin according to the recipes on the list. She will deliver it in person at noon, and everyone in the company praises Madame Ye for her virtue and virtue. In fact, Mrsya's move has several purposes. First, it can improve her reputation, but also to take care of her son's health. Third, she can keep abreast of the current situation of the Ye Group. Mrsya delivered lunch on time, but her secretary stopped her at the door of Yezikin's office. I'm sorry, madam, Mr. Chen has previously ordered that no one be allowed in for the time being. If others dared to stop her, Madame Ye would definitely be angry by now. However, her external image in the company has always been elegant and generous, and she will not lose her temper casually with others. I'm just here to deliver lunch to him, but I can't come in. I know what you mean, madam, but Mr. Chen has told me before that as a secretary, I really don't dare to disobey the boss's wishes. Please forgive me, madam. If madam doesn't mind, you can leave the things and Mr. Chen will wait for a while. When he comes out, I will personally give the things to him. How long has it been since Chen went in? About 2 hours. So long. As soon as Mrsya heard that time, she frowned. After staying in there for such a long time, no one is allowed to go in, for fear of encountering difficult problems. In that case, I'll wait for him here. Okay, madam, you can go sit in the lounge next to you for a while. If Mr. Chen comes out, I will convey it to you as soon as possible. Mrsya turned around and walked towards the lounge. The secretary breathed a sigh of relief when he saw her leaving. As a secretary, you should listen to all directions, learn to read the boss's face, and figure out the boss's thoughts. Such people are generally good at reading people. Even though Mrsya disguises her image to the outside world, she looks at others with a sense of arrogance, which cannot be hidden no matter what. As a secretary, he actually didn't want to deal with Madame Ye. After all, given her status, she really couldn't be offended. Half an hour later. Yezikin still didn't show up. But Mrsya could no longer bear her temper and directly asked the secretary to go in and ask. By chance, Yezikin agreed to meet someone. After Mrsya entered, she placed the thermos box next to his desk and took the opportunity to check the documents on Yezikin's desk. Mrsya asked naturally as if she was concerned, "Chenur, I see that the company's shares are still falling. Do you think of any countermeasures? Mom doesn't understand business matters, so there's no need to worry about it." Yezikin's eyes were calm and his tone was deep. Madam Ye suddenly asked him, "Chenur, are you resenting me? Don't dare. You must already know that I gave Chiao Lian the information in her hand. You are resenting me. Hand your father into prison with your own hands." "I don't resent anyone. Chenur, although you are the president of Yes Group now, those shareholders are eyeing you, so you must take the opportunity to make achievements. Does mother only see the honor brought to you by the Ye Group?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 699. Chapter 699. I am the only one who treats you sincerely. I'm doing it for you. As of now, I'm the only one who is really good to you. Look at the Chiao Ling you like. Now that you've worked so hard for the Ye Group, she hasn't shown up even once. I'm afraid I was just pretending to take advantage of you. Mrsya insisted that everything she did was not for personal gain. The 3 words "for you" were like 1,000 pounds weighing on Yezikin, becoming a shackles of imprisonment. By the way, I would like to compare Ye Yiwei. Yezikin was slightly moved when he heard the word Chiao Li, but the meaningful look in his eyes was fleeting. "Mother, I have my own arrangements for the company. You should just enjoy your own generous life as usual." The implication was that he did not want to see Mrsya involved. But Mrsya was very unhappy when she heard this. "Chenur, what do you mean? I am your mother. Everything I do is for your sake. I will not harm you. I appreciate my mother's kindness." Just from the change in his name to Madam Ye, we already knew that many things would be irreversible once they happened. Mrsya worked step by step, and finally pushed him, who had no blood relationship with the Ye family, to the position of the leader of the Ye family. As for the only night, since the day Yehantian was imprisoned, they had indeed not seen each other again. Some people think that he is taking the opportunity to fight for this position, just like Yehantian and Madam Ye. As for Yezi's thoughts at the moment, he couldn't be sure. At least, Mosi didn't believe it either. That kid clearly knows that he is not Yehantian's son, but he still occupies that position. What else is he doing than coveting the Ye Group's property? You see, that girl Chiao hasn't seen him recently either. She must be extremely disappointed in him. Hearing Mosi's thoughts, Pei Yuchen touched his nose awkwardly. Although he had a lot of opinions about Yezikin before, he felt that Yezikin was not the kind of person who was greedy for power. "Mr. Mosi, it's too early to draw a conclusion now. As for the lady's question, it's not convenient for me to ask more." But he thought that according to Ye Yiwei's thoughts about Yezikin, he would not give up so easily. Ye Yiwei stood behind the wall and heard the conversation between Mosi and Pei Yuchen clearly. In the dead of night, the security guard guarding the gate is on duty in rotation. The secretary took a nap outside and continued to make coffee. There are 3 layers of lights on the tall building that stay on all night. The secretary glanced at the president's office and shook his head helplessly. He also changed his job to 2 places before meeting Yezikin and being appreciated. He has never seen a boss as hands-on as Yezikin. Yehantian was imprisoned. On the surface, Yes Group was still so glorious, but in reality it was seriously damaged. When the percentage point decline in performance exceeds the previous lowest point, crisis after crisis increases the burden on the company. There are other big families who are eyeing the Yes Group's fat piece of meat and want to take advantage of the opportunity to annex it, just like the Yes Group did not hesitate to eat the Chiao family. Yezikin is indeed capable, but he is still young and lacks experience. Well. The secretary could only sigh deeply when he saw this. As a secretary, although he has been assisting the president in doing things, he is unable to access some confidential matters. Just as the secretary lowered his head and sighed, he suddenly heard footsteps approaching from far away. The footsteps were very light, but in this quiet night, he heard them very clearly. Haha, who is coming? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 700. Chapter 700 Kiss You. The secretary's heart skipped a beat. The sudden sound of footsteps in the corridor in the middle of the night was really scary. Who's there? No one answered. The secretary leaned against the door of Yezikin's office. He thought there was something slightly wrong and rushed in. Even if he is scolded by Yezikin, it is still better than bumping into something unclean. Suddenly, a woman's voice came from the side. Secretary Zhao, what are you doing? Secretary Zhao was startled. When he turned around, he saw that it was Ye Weiwei. Miss Jiao. When the secretary saw her, he let out a big breath, and the big stone in his heart finally fell to the ground. The sound just now in this empty corridor was really scary. But he didn't expect to see her. The secretary asked in confusion, Miss Jiao, how come you are here now? Ye Wei raised his index finger to his lips, shh, I'll go in and take a look. Hey. The secretary reached out to stop her, Mr. Chen is working inside, I'm afraid it's inconvenient. I know what to do. Looking at Ye Wei, he still wanted to go in, but the secretary still shook his head, Miss Jiao, this is Mr. Chen's order, so please don't embarrass me. She put her chin on one hand and smiled, if I can open the password myself, it's not your fault, right? Huh, the secretary didn't understand her words for a moment, but after a while he realized what she was saying and nodded, Miss Jiao, please. Everyone who came before was stopped by him, but this was the first one who said that he would unlock the code and get in by himself. If he can really crack the code, then I can't blame him for his poor supervision. Ye Wei stood at the door and entered the password. The secretary stood behind curiously, tilting his head to peek. He saw Ye Wei's input error and quickly covered his mouth to prevent himself from laughing out loud. However, he didn't put it away before he left. He saw Ye Wei quickly pressing the numbers on it, and the door actually opened. The door is open. Ye only entered the correct password within 3 times. It's really strange. Ye Wei quietly opened the door and walked in. The only sound in the huge office was the sound of typing on the keyboard. The moment she stepped in, the movements of Yezikin's hands suddenly stopped. Looking up, a familiar face came into view. His crooked fingers stopped just 2 or 3 centimeters above the keyboard, but he didn't press a button. It can be said to have a profound influence. It seems that Secretary Zhao has neglected his duty. It has nothing to do with him. It's a quiet night, what are you doing here? Help you. With their eyes facing each other, you can see your own reflection in the other person's eyes. Yezikin was the first to speak, he was imprisoned and the Ye group fell into my hands. Everyone thought that Yezikin took the opportunity to rise to power. You came to help me because you wanted to take revenge on him. The he here naturally refers to Ye Hantian. A smile appeared on Ye Wei's face, and he said with reason, Yes group is in crisis. If I want to take revenge on Ye Hantian, then helping you get the Ye group's things is just taking away his things, so why not? Then why do you say you can help me? As a top student in the finance department, I have a very broad understanding of the business market. To do a business, you must first understand the market. The only one who hasn't appeared in the past few days is Ye, who has been checking the market environment of S city day and night. She immediately stood in front of Yezikin, put one hand around his neck, lowered her head and kissed his forehead gently. I want to help you, just to help you. End of this chapter.